right, Hebrews 13:1. This has been pretty doctrinal all the way through the book. This one lands on some just good advice, daily practical living. Hebrews 13, where did my notes go? There they go. All right, Hebrews 13:1, he says, let brotherly love continue. That is, they've been doing right. He says, good, you did what you're supposed to do, keep doing it. Now, this is a command for every age. Every family is supposed to be a unit. And he says a Christian family is the same way. There should be a love of the family. Doesn't mean you like everybody, you love them. Hebrews 6, verse 10. Sometimes it's work to love somebody. Hebrews 6:10. For God is not unrighteous to forget your work and labor of love. Sometimes it's a labor to love, which ye have showed toward his name, in that you have ministered to the saints and do minister. This is not love toward God. This is love toward the brethren. Hebrews 10, look at verse 24. He said, let us consider one another to provoke unto love and to good works. That is, tell somebody to get over having a grudge against their brother and begin to love them. We're supposed to provoke them. Now he said, consider one another. So it's something that you think about. You don't just, it's not just you're a hall monitor. Consider is a thoughtful process. It's like meditating. And so we, of course, should be meditating on the scripture, and that's where our thoughts should be mostly, but also your other brothers and sisters. Romans 12, verse 9. Let love be without dissimulation. That is tearing someone down. Well, of course, that wouldn't be love. But, you know, some people love by, becomes cultish. They love each other by hating everybody else. That's their bond. That's how they join together, is by how mean they can be. That's not real love. He says, abhor that which is evil, cleave to that which is good. Look at it in chapter 12, verse 10, Romans 12:10. Be kindly affectioned. Okay, so this kind of love is kind. Now, we're pretty good at saying, you know, they're just wicked and they need to get right with God and they're unholy, and that's love because I'm seeing it from God's point of view, but that's not kind. You're also to be kind. I know that's hard preaching and we don't hear much of it in the Bible believing circle, but that's just Bible. Be kindly affectioned one to another with brotherly love, in honor, preferring one another. That is, think of them for good and their good before yours. Galatians 5, verse 13. Galatians 5, verse 13. For brethren, ye have been called unto liberty. That's good. You're not, when you got saved, you got under a new law. You're directly under Christ, not under a list of Old Testament rules and regulations. He says, but that liberty, be careful what you do with it. Only use not liberty for an occasion to the flesh, but by love serve one another. So the new law has this motivation behind it. It's intended for you to be serving someone else. When we got saved, we were made a new creature. The old creature, you could classify him as selfish. The new one should be classified this way. He serves other people. Easier said than done. 2 John chapter 6. See how many people find that. 2 John 1, verse 6. Now he's going to identify what this love is. And this is love, that we walk after his commandments. This is the commandment that you've heard from the beginning. Ye should walk in it. So it's just a no-brainer. You can't have real love outside of being saved, because anything outside of Christ, baseline, is selfishness. Inside of Christ, it's others first, always. Okay, we made it through the hard verse. Verse 2. Hebrews 13, verse 2. Be not forgetful to entertain strangers. And some people are stranger than others. For thereby some have entertained angels unawares. That is, don't be looking. You got to understand the verse. He's saying it's unaware. So you don't be looking at a stranger saying, I'll bet that's an angel. No, if you could tell it was an angel, it wouldn't be unaware, would it? Okay, so if an angel shows up, and I think they do from time to time, you wouldn't know it. I mean, unless it's a biblical thing, and we'll find some cases in the Bible where it's obvious it's an angel, but many times they don't know at the beginning. The basic gist of this is you should have hospitality. That's another one of those things that's just not preached anymore. Christians are supposed to be, there's supposed to be a sweet spirit about a Christian, and one of the attributes is hospitality. Romans 12, verse 13. He said, distributing to the necessity of saints, given to hospitality. That is, it should be something that's just without a fault. We know how to be hospitable. Look at it in 1 Timothy 3. 1 Timothy 3, verse 2. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, apt to teach. That is, a Christian should enjoy the fellowship of other Christians. And that should be a natural thing. I know that you may not be on the same page doctrinally with all Christians, but there's something about another Christian, if they're saved, that you just enjoy their fellowship. You enjoy being around them. You may not be able to have deep conversations on all subject matter with them. That's okay. You couldn't do that with the world either. People like to go to Walmart, but they don't like everybody in Walmart. That doesn't stop them from going. Christians should be hospitable to other Christians. Look at it in Titus 1, verse 8. Titus 1, verse 8. But the lover of hospitality, a lover of good men, sober, just, holy, temperate. Now that's a list of classifications you could work on for a lifetime. And he says in the list, number 2 on the list, we already saw in all the other places, he's using the same thing, hospitality over and over. It's hospitality. He says in there, a lover of good men. I know you just read the Old Testament and you get the idea there's no such thing as a good man, but that's because you hadn't read it close enough. The Old Testament talks about good men. That was the whole point of the Old Testament, is you could have righteousness you worked up yourself. That was a good man. In the New Testament, if you're saved, you're in Christ, that's the good man. Another Christian is only a good man when he's in Christ and Christ is in him. That part of him's good. Nothing else. Look at it, 1 Peter 4. 1 Peter 4, verse 9. Now we're down at the end of the age. This is Peter talking to tribulation folk, and here's what he says. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. That is, don't let that become a chore to you. Tell yourself you're going to enjoy it whether you like it or not. It says without grudging. Now, in the tribulation time period, That'll be something. Nobody's got anything. And he's saying, be hospitable, invite people in, help them, think of others, not just you. I know you don't have anything, but think of the other guy next to you, doesn't have anything else either. I think of being in Bible school. That was us. Had nothing. But we were in a group of people that had nothing, and we all enjoyed. Here's an example of someone entertaining a stranger that turns out to be an angel. Genesis 18. Genesis 18. You would not think this would be the person you would call out as being a good example of hospitality, but it sure is. This is the line. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and lo, 3 men stood by him. And when he saw them, he ran to meet them from the tent. For this is Abram. And said, My Lord, if now I have found favor in thy sight, pass not away, I pray thee, from thy servant. Let a little water, I pray thee, be fetched, and wash your feet, and rest yourselves under a tree. So these are all the things that are descriptive of hospitality. It's come take a nap, and I'll get you a bunch of food. So you'd want hospitality there, wouldn't you? You wouldn't want to be the one providing it, but you'd want to receive some of it. Then it doesn't just stop there. Look at chapter 19. Chapter 19. And there came 2 angels to Sodom and Even, and Lot sat at the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and bowed himself with his face toward the ground, and said, Behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early, and go on your ways. And they said, Nay, we're going to stay in the street. And then he presses them, and they do come in. But this is Lot in Sodom, showing he's still got something that's different than the crowd around him. He's hospitable, and he's thinking of their good. Now he knows the danger of them being in the street, and he's trying to protect them from that. Here's another one, Judges 13. Judges 13. This is Samson's mom and dad. And Manoah said unto the angel of the Lord, I pray thee, let us detain thee until we shall have made ready a kid for thee. That's not a child, that's a goat. So it's part of feeding. Every time you find Jesus in a group somewhere, it's 9 times out of 10 about food. They're getting food. Now, of course, they only ate once a day if they were lucky, and sometimes they didn't do that. So that was a big deal. Look at it in Matthew 25. Matthew 25, verse 40. This is one of the criteria by which God's going to judge. Now we understand that because he said over and over, be hospitable. Therefore, we should expect him to be judging. That's one of the things he's taken off the list. Were you hospitable? He says, and the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as you have done it unto one of the least of these my brethren, you've done it unto me. Now, of course, that has a tribulation connotation. His brethren, brothers, family, literally would be the Jews. Look at it in Hebrews 13:1. Notice, let brotherly love continue. And that you've done it unto the least of these my brethren. That's that connection to doctrinally where he's talking about tribulation. Hebrews 13:3. Remember them that are in bonds as bound with them, and them which suffer adversity as being yourselves also in the body. That is, consider, here's how you consider. We're supposed to consider one another. We saw that in another verse. One of the ways you do that is think of whatever's happening to them. What if it was happening to you? How would you feel? What would you need? That's some of the ways that you determine how you're going to help somebody. Is you put yourself in their position as much as you can. He says, look at it in Genesis 40. This is Joseph, Genesis 40, verse 14. He's in prison. But think on me when it shall be well with thee, and show kindness, I pray thee, unto me, and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. That's what somebody in prison is thinking. Help me get out of here. I think of those people that do the cases where they lawyer teams that go out and try to find overturn cases where somebody was innocent and put into prison. That's a good thing. That kind of fits the description here. Verse 15. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also have I done nothing that they should put me in the dungeon. He said, I'm here. I'm really innocent. Help me. And so you know what they do? They forget all about it. Verse 23. Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgot him. That is, when he's doing good, then he can't think of anybody that's not as good as him. We often think that we've been blessed, therefore everybody should be blessed. If I've got good, how come everybody else doesn't? Don't think that way, because soon you'll be in that position. That might be a way to hasten your position. Look at it in Matthew 25. Matthew 25, verse 36. It's the same text that we were reading earlier about kindness. He says, naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you visited me. I was in prison and you came unto me. Now, I know there are Christians in prison, and I know some of them were Christians before they went to prison. And I know there's some that were wicked people before unsaved, before they went to prison and got saved. But he's saying right here, there's a time when his brethren are going to be put into prison, not for their fault, but for his name's sake. And when that happens, one of the duties is for the other Christians to visit them. Prime example is Paul. All the way through, you find one time he's out of one prison into the next. He's on a tour of prisons as an inmate. Look at it in Matthew 25, verse 43. I was a stranger and you took me not in. Okay, there's that. Be aware of the strangers, and because you might be entertaining an angel unaware. You took me not in. Naked, you clothed me not. Sick and in prison. That's a double whammy. And you visited me not. So that's one of the criteria by which he judges the tribulation time period. 1 Peter 3. He says, finally, be ye all of one mind, having compassion. Now, he doesn't say just let your mind wander and everybody default to the lowest common denominator. He tells them what one mind they have to have. One mind, having compassion one of another. Love as brethren. Be pitiful. I've seen a bunch of pitiful people. Be pitiful. Be courteous. Those are just some nice manners that people should have, and it's biblical. Manners is something that used to be taught in school. Yeah. Manners is something that your parents would teach you. It would be practiced. You know, you rarely do anything without practicing it. So there's nothing wrong with practicing some manners. Look at Hebrews 13. Now our lesson for the night. Hebrews 13, verse 4. He says, marriage is honorable in all, and the bed undefiled, but whoremongers and adulterers, God will judge. God's the judge. Now, let's think about it. Most people don't have a clue what that means. And I would say that I was taught wrong from the beginning what that means. He says, whoremongers and adulterers, God will judge. What is an adulterer? Okay, so you have to find that. That's some sexual sin. I say the word adultery and fornication are used interchangeably many times in the Bible. Although you can say most people have to run to Greek in order to tell you there's a difference. When they run to Greek, they're going to say an adultery means you've broken a marriage contract. They use the contract. You know, big. And why wouldn't we just say the marriage vow? We'll do that. That sounds too biblical, I guess. But it's used interchangeably many places. However, there's a word in there that people sure don't get. You understand what adultery is, so you think whoremonger is the person using the product of the woman. It's not what they call him, a John. That's a bad way to put it. It's not the buyer of the woman for sale. It's the one who's selling the woman. There's a word that's still used, not as frequently as it used to be, but what's called a fishmonger. It means someone who sells fish. So now you know what a whoremonger is. Someone who sells whores. So here he's referring to the pimp. Now, someone to use the product of a whore is bad. I'm not saying that's good. However, it'd be like this. It'd be like me saying, it's bad to steal, and because of that, remember the Sabbath day. Okay, the two don't go together. Okay, well, let's put the words that are on the page in the context they're intended. Here, the context intended was both the seller and the product. And that's going to be very important in the tribulation, and we'll get there in a minute. Let's see. I was going to give you this. Oh. You have another word that is similar to adultery that we understand. It's an adjective, adulterated. What does that mean? That means something that was intended for another use and you used it improperly. That's many times what's going on with this sexual sin he's referring to. It's marriage, the bed is undefiled in all, if it's marriage, but if it was used improperly, then it's adultery outside of its intended use. Give you the big long definition, but I'm not going to. You understand enough of it. 1 Corinthians 6. 1 Corinthians 6, verse 13. This is why real Christians are not vegetarians. I'm being facetious. Meat is for the belly, and the belly for meats. But God shall destroy both it and them. Okay, he's laying down a principle. You're supposed to be able to eat meat. Matter of fact, God made your body and he made it so that you can consume meat. He says, now, the body is not for fornication, but for the Lord, and the Lord for the body. God's purpose is to be in you. And if that part's been fulfilled, don't destroy the rest of it. Your body's intended for him, not an adulterated use of your body. Because when you're married, you know what? Her body belongs to you and your body belongs to her. That's the picture he's painting right here is don't use it illegally. Adulterate it. Look at it in verse 18. Flee fornication. Every sin that a man doeth is without the body, that is, outside of the body. But he that committeth fornication sinneth against his own body. What are you called when you're saved? You're called either the church corporately, or you're called the body of Christ. So he's saying, don't join your body that's now one with Christ with someone who's not legal. And the meaning of it. Look at it in Romans 1. Romans 1, verse 24. He says, wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies. That is, there's something that you can destroy your own body, and we've seen it. That's where AIDS comes from. A person doing something that was not intended for the body, and it destroys the body. And it doesn't stop with them. He says their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves. Men have an agreement on all the wrong things. And there's a clique for every weird way of defiling the flesh. Because it's anything that God has said don't do, the devil says, good, let's create a whole fan club for it. That's where we live today. John chapter 8, John 8, verse 41. This is the Pharisees talking to Jesus. Jesus tells them, you do the deeds of your father. Now, the father there he's talking about is the devil. Then said they unto him, we be not born of fornication. We have one Father, even God. That's not matching what they're saying, is it? Wouldn't they say we have one Father, even Abraham? That's the human part. Well, if they can recognize that, they're recognizing the fornication part too. It's something produced by the devil. It is. He's the father of it, is what they're trying to say. It's where it comes from. James chapter 4. James 4, verse 4. Now we find the counterpart to a whoremonger. Not a whoremonger, to an adulterer. Ye adulterers and adulteresses, the male and the female. Know ye not that the friendship of the world is enmity with God? That is, he's saying you're an adulterer or you're an adulteress if you're the friend of the world. And it goes a step farther than that. It's not just some sin that's promoted on TV as a fun time. It's more than that. It's an army fighting another army. You've become an enemy of God. Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of God. Now, if we viewed it that way, that the world is our enemy, and it really is your enemy. I know that's not modern preaching. Modern preaching is we love everybody and everybody loves us, and that's a baloney. You'll love everybody once they're in the family. That's that love the brethren. But if they ain't the brethren, they ain't the family. What are they? They're the enemy. Now, you want to defeat the enemy. You know the best way to defeat the enemy? Convert the enemy to the family. That'll fix it. He says, Matthew 5, verse 32. Now I'm going to make your mind work. But I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, okay? Are they married? His wife, yeah. saving for the cause of fornication. If it's his wife, he can't commit fornication. He would have to commit adultery. He said fornication. Therefore, the word can be used interchangeably. So if she's married and she commits fornication, then he can put her away. He didn't say adultery, although we would classify it that way. Causeth her to commit adultery. So if she's going to marry someone else, then that marriage, that's not really a legal marriage, is causing her to step out on what the legal arrangement was. Then she's committing adultery. See, I was using that word back and forth. Either way. And whosoever shall marry her that is divorced committeth adultery. That is, if she was divorced illegally. Not there is legal grounds for divorce. And he's saying if she did not have the legal grounds for this divorce, then it wasn't a true divorce. Look at it in Revelation 22. Well, I didn't put that version. Revelation 22, verse 15. 22:15. He said, okay. He says, for without her dogs, we think of dogs as little pets and, nice animals, and you train them and all that stuff. That's not the way they viewed them. They viewed them kind of the way the American Indian viewed them. American Indian viewed the dog as a beast of burden. When they moved from camp to camp, they loaded up the dog. And when they needed food, there was a dog. Literally. It was just, it was a wild animal, the way they saw it. And he's pretty much saying the same. For without her dogs and sorcerers, and here's our list, and whoremongers and murderers and idolaters, and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie. That's quite a list to be part of. No, stay away from the whoremonger or the adulterer. Look at it in 2 Peter, 2 Peter 2. Second Peter 2. Not a good. I guess we need to go back to verse 1. The whole context. But there were false prophets also among the people, even as there shall be false teachers among you, who privately shall bring in damnable heresies, even denying the Lord that bought them, and bring upon themselves swift destruction. And many shall follow their pernicious ways, by reason of whom the way of truth shall be evil spoken of. And through covetousness. Now he's going to talk about a whoremonger. And through covetousness shall they with feigned words make merchandise of you. Now, this is exactly what's going to happen in the tribulation. Is they're going to make merchandise of people? They're going to sell them. That's why the curse was against the whoremonger, the pimp. And that's going to go on religiously. Now, I don't mean habitually, I mean in a religious service. Look at it in Revelation 1 or 2, maybe. I got to find it. They put enough verses in here. Give me Jezebel. Chapter 2, verse 20. Notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou sufferest that woman Jezebel, which calleth herself a prophetess. That's exactly how 2 Peter 3 started. To teach and to seduce my servants to do what? Commit fornication. Now, most people try to make that spiritualized, meaning she's teaching them false doctrine, so they're believing something that's against God. No, it's part of the worship service. Just like the pagans did, it becomes part of the religion. And you look at most modern church praise and worship, and it's an advertisement for sexual sin, is what it is. Fornication, and to eat things sacrificed unto idols. And he says, I gave her space to repent. She repented not, and I'm going to throw her into a bed and kill her and her children. And all the world will see it and know. Look at it in Malachi 3. Malachi 3:5. He says, and I will come near to you to judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers. Okay, we would expect that. Harry Pothead's got to go. And against the adulterers, and against the false swearers. You know what a false swearer is? Somebody says, I'm giving my oath that I saw this and this when he didn't. He's lying about it. But I think there's more to it than that. You know what happens when you curse? You swear something. They call it swearing. What is swearing? Swearing is declaring something that is not. Take the actual words they're saying, they mean something. They have meaning. That's being written in heaven. They're going to be judged according to their words. That's false swearing. And against those that oppress the hireling in his wage, the widow, the fatherless, and that turn aside the stranger from his right, and fear not me, saith the Lord of hosts. So that's God's judging adulterers. Now notice something else on the list, right on the same list as him judging that. It's something odd. Against those that oppress, the hireling in his wage. Now, you know what a hireling is? A hireling is the description of the Antichrist. He's a hireling and he cares not for the sheep. He flees. You know what a hireling is? Is someone hired to watch the sheep. Here, the actual job would have been you hire someone to watch your sheep for you, like David did with Abigail's, Nabal, was his name? With Nabal's sheep. That is, he himself is not going out there and watching his sheep. He's going to pay somebody else to do it. But then when it comes around to payday, he says, nah, never mind, I'm not paying you. Or I'm going to give you half price. I don't think you did enough work or something. And he puts it into this context of the priest. This is being preached to the priesthood in Malachi. And he says, I'm against those that oppress the hireling in his wage. I remember when this thing took on a new meaning for me. I was at a church, I won't name it, and it was not I was there on mission. God allowed me to teach and do some things. That was good. But it was all about money. They couldn't talk for more than 10 minutes without talking about money. And so I just got fed up with it, and I said, that's it. I'm not giving them any. And then I found that verse. Maybe I better. That's a hireling, but just because it's a hireling doesn't mean you have the right to not pay them. They had a thing. I was a teacher, of course, and so the teachers had to go on. I'm telling probably too much information. We'll reveal it all. You had to go on to a website as a teacher, and you had to put in how much money you were giving every week. You have to sign a agreement form when you join the church, promising to give a certain amount, your 10%. It's just, I don't agree. So to me, it was too much about money, money, money. And so I said, I'm done. And then God showed me that one and said, wait a minute. You're there. You've got a job to do. Pay to do this job. Yes, sir. Okay, that really didn't have much to do with the context, but that we'll stop it there and we'll pick up there next week at verse 5.